Hey everybody, welcome to Play, Rank, Share, the show where I cover the marquee PlayStation 5 titles, create an ever-evolving ranking of the best PlayStation 5 games, and share my opinions with you. My name is Tyrus, and this episode is all about dormant PlayStation franchises that need to be revived. Remember to like the video to help others find the show, and be sure to comment what PlayStation IP you'd want to see return. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. And with that out of the way, let's jump in. Last week, PlayStation revealed a new sizzle reel for PlayStation Productions, the new TV and film division within the company. This highlighted key series that have recently risen to the limelight, including Horizon, Ghost of Tsushima, and Astrobot. It is obvious that PlayStation is going to be gearing up to fully utilize their gaming IP across the entertainment landscape, especially after the opening weekend success of the Uncharted movie. This puts pressure on PlayStation Studios to create meaningful IP that can be turned into more than just games. However, PlayStation is already sitting on a treasure trove of dormant IP. PlayStation has nailed both the linear and open-world action-adventure game genres, but still have large holes in other genres that they need to fill. They have shown with their recent investments in live service games that they are aware of the holes in their ecosystem and are trying to diversify the PlayStation Studios offerings, but also revitalizing some of these past IP could help the company create new, meaningful games that will immediately insert themselves back into the gaming zeitgeist. So, for this video, I have selected 5 franchises that I think PlayStation should bring back from the dead in the coming years. The first franchise I want to talk about, because frankly it's the most obvious, is Sly Cooper. I've said before it's apparent that PlayStation wants to expand into the family-friendly games market with a heavy push on both Astrobot and Ratchet & Clank, and this makes it the perfect time to bring back Sly Cooper. Originally developed by Ghost of Tsushima studio Sucker Punch, the first trilogy released on the PS2 from 2002 to 2005. After a remake of the original trilogy in 2010, Sanzaru Games developed the latest entry, Sly Cooper: Thieves in Time, for the PS3 and released it in 2013. But since then, Sanzaru has been purchased by Meta to make Oculus games, rendering this series inactive. If PlayStation is committing to building a portfolio of family-friendly games, I think Sly Cooper is an IP worth revisiting. The recent success of Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart has shown that PlayStation gamers still have an appetite for action 3D platformers, and Sly Cooper has enough different mechanics to stand out on its own. The lovable cast of characters also sets the game up for a potential TV show down the line. PlayStation had previously announced a Sly Cooper TV show in 2017, but it never saw release. With the refocus on expanding IP past just the gaming landscape, I think it's time we see a new entry in this storied franchise. When I think of PlayStation franchises that need to be revived, I think we are due for a new entry in the MotorStorm series, since this game just didn't get a fair shake in its last outing. The core trilogy of games was developed by now defunct Evolution Studios, with releases in 2006, 2008, and 2011. The last entry, MotorStorm Apocalypse, was themed around driving through environmental disasters, and its unfortunate release timing with devastating tsunamis happening in Japan caused it to be delayed. After this kerfuffle, MotorStorm Apocalypse failed to capture a sizable audience, and the series hasn't been seen since. However, there is certainly a market for arcade racing games, and for that reason, MotorStorm could shine in the PlayStation 5 generation. With the rise of games as a service, a new entry in the MotorStorm franchise could benefit to act as a platform that constantly adds new maps to race on. The only other racing game actively being made by PlayStation Studios is Gran Turismo, which heavily focuses on the simulation side of racing. Complementing this with a polished arcade racing franchise could offer up a new experience lacking in the current PlayStation ecosystem. For this next pick, I want to highlight that PlayStation in general is severely lacking in single-player, first-person shooters, and bringing back the Resistance franchise could be the perfect way to remedy this. In addition to gain entries on the PSP and PS Vita, the main trilogy of games released on the PlayStation 3 between 2006 and 2011. Focusing on telling a captivating narrative in a post-apocalyptic world, it has been learned that a fourth Resistance was pitched back in the day, but not greenlit at PlayStation due to the game potentially being too similar to The Last of Us. However, with this glaring hole of first-person shooters in the PlayStation portfolio, I think it's time to bring back this series that was developed by Insomniac Games. The industry in general lacks high-quality single-person FPS games aside from the Doom and Wolfenstein franchises, and those have now become Xbox's property. PlayStation needs to be more aggressive on this front. It is known that Insomniac has at least 4 current development teams, and having one of their smaller ones make a new Resistance game isn't out of the realm of possibility. The studio does frequently tweet about this franchise, so I wouldn't be surprised if we hear about it in the next couple years. With the possibility of a brand new Metal Gear Solid game all but ruled out, now is the perfect opportunity for PlayStation to capitalize on this hole and revitalize their old Syphon Filter series. Originally developed by Sony Bend, the developers of Days Gone, Syphon Filter had 6 total games released almost annually between 1999 and 2007. The franchise has since gone dark, and Jeff Ross, game director for Days Gone, revealed recently that PlayStation approached Bend about making a new Syphon Filter game, but the studio didn't have a narrative idea for it. However, Hitman 3 recently showed that stealth games can be wildly popular, and there isn't a marquee open-world stealth game currently on the market. I wonder if PlayStation is trying to find a partner for Syphon Filter, since Bend doesn't want to continue working on it. I think this series has been away for so long that it could be brought back with a new, modern flair and style, since it will be unfamiliar to so many gamers. Syphon Filter could really stand out in comparison to other open-world PlayStation games, and the espionage angle of the game can make it a perfect fit for a spin-off TV show or movie down the line. PlayStation continually invested in their brand during the PS4 generation through the creation of new, meaningful IP, with some being lauded as the best in the industry. With the way PlayStation brand has developed in the past decade, I think it's finally time we can revive the PlayStation All-Stars franchise. In hindsight, the first entry was almost doomed from the start, with out-of-place third-party characters, a lack of meaningful first-party faces, and a horribly integrated knockout system. To get a new PlayStation All-Stars right, I think it needs to unashamedly be a complete Smash clone with the same damage system integrated into the game. The rise of new mascots for PlayStation, such as Aloy from Horizon, Jin from Ghost of Tsushima, Astrobot, and even Spider-Man can help create a more fleshed out roster. There is also plenty of potential to include more characters who were forgotten from the first entry, like the Wanderer from Shadow of the Colossus, and we can finally integrate meaningful third-party characters that can be easier to get now, like Cloud. Super Smash Bros. Worked so well as both an advertisement and celebration of all the franchises in an ecosystem, and I'm sure PlayStation craves a similar type of game to promote themselves. As we near a decade since the last attempt was released, I think it's been long enough where we can now comfortably revisit this idea and see if a stronger roster of characters will generate greater interest. I think this might be the most far-fetched proposal out of the 5, but I'm sure gonna be keeping my fingers crossed when the next PlayStation Showcase rolls around. Thank you for watching this episode of Play, Ranked, Share. More reviews for PRS are on the way since so many games have already come out lately. Upcoming reviews include Horizon Forbidden West and Dying Light 2. What PlayStation franchise would you like to see made a return? Remember to leave a comment below, and until next time, don't stop sharing.